Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Learning FreeCAD for Beginners, where we teach the fundamentals of FreeCAD using practical examples along as we teach FreeCAD workflows. In the previous episode, we looked at creating a 3D object from a number of reference images, using those to trace and create the object in 3D space. In this video, we're looking at importing SVGs, either ones we created in Inkscape or ones we've actually imported from external sources. We're going to be using those in a part workflow. So this is a bit different from part design. The part workbench uses Boolean functions and is basically the Swiss Army knife of FreeCAD. Our end result is taking an SVG from a laser cut project using Extrude and Boolean operations to turn that 2D object into a 3D one that we can later use in CNC or 3D printer, rather than going down the laser cut or card cut route. I've also included a couple of sources that we can use to create these models. These include freeaxis.co, which is a laser cut site where I've got this original model from, and pixabay.com, that has both vector and raster based images that we can use in FreeCAD. So I hope you're enjoying these videos, and let's have a look at this subject area. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So for this tutorial, we're going to start off in Inkscape. Now, Inkscape is a free external vector graphic editor that allows you to edit such files as SVGs, DFX, the AutoCAD format, etc. It's totally free. It's basically the same as Adobe Illustrator, but it's open source. I'm going to create some objects in here. So I'm going to start, say, with a circle and a square. And we're going to place a path in here as well. And this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to show you what happens when we have an SVG and actually import it in. Now, one thing to remember is that this document, the coordinates of x0 and y0 start at this point here. So when we right click and transform these parts, because these individual parts will be paths inside FreeCAD, the handler to transform them will be at this point here. So I'm just going to add a small square, say here, and we'll see that is at that point. Let's escape that. One other thing to remember, if I come up to the objects and we'll bring this down, we've already got it open. You can see we've got rectangle 16, path 14, etc. coming down here. These will appear with the same naming in FreeCAD when we import the SVG file into FreeCAD. Let's save this quickly. So File, Save As. And we look down here, we've got plain SVG, but we've got a number of other formats down here. And you'll notice that we have some formats, such as this one, that FreeCAD supports. I'm going to keep with the default and hit Save. Well, let's first add the test.svg, let's overwrite that and replace it. So we've got our basic SVG. If we come out of Inkscape and come into FreeCAD, I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to go to File and Import. All we have to do is select our SVG file and open it. It'll ask us about DPI settings. We'll just hit yes and take the defaults. You can see each of those paths has been imported, and you can see the naming is the same as in Inkscape. If we roll over each of these, you can see that they appear in yellow, showing which ones they are. I'm going to come over to something called the part workbench to manipulate these. Now, the part workbench and the part design have similarities, and some people don't know which one to use over the other. If you think about the part workbench as a Swiss Army knife of FreeCAD, it can have many tools in there to use with other workbenches or be used as itself. Then you'll see that the part design is a very restrictive workflow that is dedicated to building a part in a traditional CAD process. They have interchangeable uses, but the part workbench has more functions across FreeCAD in total compared to the part design. Also, the way they pad and pocket is different. For instance, in the part workbench, I can pad these. It's known as extrude in part. So if I take any of these will have a normal axis that runs away from them or even downwards, depending on the path or the object that's been imported via SVG. And they differ from each of these objects. Some of them won't have a normal plane. So for instance, these rectangles, you would have thought the normal plane would be running this way. So when we pad this or extrude it, then it will just run this way without any problems or run downwards. That's not the case. Let's take this path first. So this one here, I only got to click an edge for the path to be selected on the left hand side. And we'll use the extrude, which is the same as a pad or part extrude, and we're going to extrude it along the normal. So that's normal to plane. So that will extrude it normal to that plane of the input shape. So I'm going to set this to a length of say 6mm, or that's actually, let's go about 50mm. And we've got some other options in here. We can taper it, create solid. At the moment I've got create solid selected. And when we hit OK, what will happen is that you can see that's gone downwards. The default was downwards. We can change that by just clicking on the extrude and coming in on the data tab and looking at the length forward. And we could go -50, hit enter, that will extrude it upwards. Or if we leave it at 50, we can select the direction mode. At the moment it's normal. We can set it to custom. And then we can change the direction above. Drop this down. We've got Z -1. And we just change it to 1 instead. That sends it upwards. Let's try these ones. So this one here, let's extrude that. Let's this time use the toolbar. And we're going to take the default so we can see Z is 1 there. And hit OK. It's saying it can't determine the normal vector for the shape, so we can't extrude. So we're going to have to use a custom method. So we can use this custom direction and the Z axis is 1 there. We can click on this Z and it'll change it to -1. And we've got the option to actually send it in different directions as well. So we can send it along the X or the Y, etc. That's it, OK. And that's extruded that one. Now remember what I was talking about when we come to transform this. So if I transform this one, our handler will be over here. So I'll right click, transform, you can see it's over here. And that's because this one wasn't created around the top of the document. So our document, if we think about back in Inkscape, our document basically came around here. And this object here, this rectangle, was created at that point. So we can see that by going right click, transform, and it's there. Now we've extruded these, we can use any of these options here. So the part workbench allows for Boolean operations. We don't use pads, we don't use pockets. We use an extrude. And if I wanted to say pocket this shape into here, let's give it some extrusion about 50mm along the Z and hit OK. Well, first I would have to transform my new extrusion into place like so, and then I would use a Boolean operation against there. Now that requires 2 selections. We've got the Boolean operations on the toolbar. They're also available on the part drop down under Boolean, and we've got a number of operations here. So I'm going to use a cut operation to start with. So I'm going to select the extrude, so you can see it selected in the left hand side here. Just click on the faces, that selects the extrude. I'm going to hold down Control and select the object that I want to remove from the one that I've just clicked. So first you click the one you want to keep and the one you want to remove for the cut. Come to Part, come down to the Boolean operations and come over to Cut. That cuts that object from there, and we can see how that's been removed inside. What's happened on the tree view is you have a cut here. And this differs from part design because we have a nested operations within rather than a linear operations where you have the tip, the last operation. We're not dealing with bodies, we've got multiple bodies in here, so each of these individual parts can be a body. And we can export out each of these individual parts as well just by clicking on one and going to File and Export. That will export out this part here. Boolean is the same, but we just join two parts together. So for instance, I can take this extrude and transform it into place. So it intersects our object and hit OK. And we can just select both those objects by holding down the control and using the Boolean operation or the union operation. The Boolean operation gives us a number of options there and we can choose which one we want. The union operation just joins those together in a fusion. So you can see we've taken the original cut and this rectangle underneath and union those together. And we can see those in there. So now we've got the basics down, let's look at bringing in an external file from a third party. So let's close all. And I'm going to create a new document. Let's import the file. So File, Import. And this one originally came from a laser cut site and we'll just import it in there. So what I want to do is basically give these depth so I can 3D print it rather than laser cut it, or even put it on a CNC machine. Best to work from the top and zoom in. And we can see we've got a number of objects in here. So if I click this one, so I'm just clicking an edge, you can see path 6 is highlighted there. And if I roll over it, you can see the whole object is highlighted. Well, with that one, we can just hit the extrude and decide how deep we want this. So let's go for about 3mm and hit OK. And we've just extruded that. For something like this one here, if I click on that, this path 2, if we extrude that, well, we need to take out these objects inside. Now, if we click on these objects, we can see each one of these is an individual object. Remembering back to our Inkscape file, where I created a number of objects on that document, this is the same. These are just all squares, and they represent the holes in this object. So let's first extrude this object, and we're going to go 5mm, actually 3mm, and hit OK. Now the problem we got is that we need to do the same with these and basically cut it away from this object, because those are basically just sitting on top of that, and we need to remove them away from here. So I'm going to click on the extrude and press the space bar. That hides it. Inside the extrude you'll see that we've got the path in there, and it's been hidden automatically once the extrude has been created. What I need to do is basically take these and extract them from that extrude. Now we don't need to do them one by one, we can group these together. Because the first thing I need to do is make an extruder for all these. So I'm going to come up to Edit and Box Selection. And I need to select all of these. So I'm going to come in and put a box selection around those. I'm going to hold down the Control key and come over to the Edit Box Selection again. And we'll box select around here. And we'll do some more. Still got the Control key held down, and we can even just select these edges, and these will select the path. If you look to the left hand side, you can see the paths are being added to my selection as I click them. Though they haven't been fully highlighted, they've been added to selection. Again, the part workbench comes in handy here because we can join these all together in something called a compound. So part, come down to the compound and make a compound object. If we look down, we can see the compound has been created here. and it contains inside all those objects. So all those paths are in there. With compounds, what we can do is extrude it as well. So we can click on the extrude, 3mm again, and hit OK. So that's being extruded by 3mm. That's bring back our other extrude. Our other extrude is there. Well, we've got a bit of a problem because this is not embedded into here. So if we wanted to remove this from this object, it's just sitting on top, so it won't make a cut between these. All we need to do is, well, we take one of them. Let's take this one. Right click, transform, and we'll move this up or move it down into position. Now the idea is to get the top and the bottoms protruding from the object, which can be a bit tricky. So one way of doing it, just OK that, and we'll click on the extrude of the compound, so that extrude there, and then come down and change the length to something like, let's change it to 10. So that's, well, that's solved it this way. Let's solve it by pushing it down. So I'm going to set the symmetry to true and click off. And those have gone all the way through there. I can now click on the one that I want to keep, which is this extrude, and then control click the one that I want to remove. Now all I have to do is control click one of these, and you see the other extrude has been selected, the compound extrude, and we'll use the cut. That's removed that compound from our extrude. It's as simple as that. And it's the same case for something like this more complex shape here. So you can see we've got a number of different paths that are sitting basically on top of each other. That's why you get all this flashing. And we can join these up. So I'm going to hold down the control key and join these two up and create a compound of those. We've got compound tools here, so you can see this drop down. We can create a compound there. So let's create a compound. That one there. I can press the space bar to hide that. And well, I can see inside here now. So I've got these that I can select. I'll come in, control select those, and we'll do the same here. I may even take this one as well. And we'll create a compound, but this time we'll go to the drop down, so make compound. So now we've got that one. And we've got the others inside. So what we have to do now is basically take those two compounds. And we can even multi-select these. So I've hold down the control and selected both those compound. And I'm going to extrude those. And we'll set the Z-axis to 1. And we'll extrude those by 5mm as well. Hit OK. We get two extrusions. So you can see those there. This one and this one. And click the one that I want to keep. Control click from the tree view or the screen if I can actually get to them. Use the tree view, one I want to remove, and use the cut. And you can see how those have been removed from inside there. We've been creating outlines such as this to create extrudes, pads and pockets. These outlines take the shape that you want to create and look at it from, say, the top or the side to create the end result. These outlines are known as profiles. So a profile is an outline of something that's seen from one side. Extrudes, pads and pockets allows a profile to be extruded in a set direction. But we're not limited to extrudes. For example, in a part design workflow, we have a number of additive operations that allow us to use a profile in a different way. Whether that be revolving the profile around a set degree, lofting the profile along other profiles, allowing it to morph into shape, or using something called a pipe, also known as a sweep, where we create material along a path using our profile or multiple profiles. The part design workbench also offers a subtractive operation, where we have our object but we remove material from in those processes. We've also got the same features in a part workflow, but these are more flexible in which profiles you can use. In our next couple of videos, we'll be explaining these workflows to answer such questions as where you would use, say, a revolve in the part design over a revolve in the part. So I hope you're enjoying this series, and I hope to see you in the next video. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.